This is the software overview of the Raspberry Pi remote streaming robot. All it does is it takes the JPEG stream from the camera module, sends it over the network to the server, which in this case is just a modern laptop, which processes all the OpenCV functions and outputs a command set to move the robot. On the left-hand side of the screen is the processes for the laptop server. As you see, it's pretty much idle, and I haven't run the program yet below that. On the right-hand side is the Raspberry Pi on the robot. That's actually got quite a bit of load because its script is just waiting for that network connection. And below that is the actual code that's running. So I'll give you a brief overview. I'm using the Python module called PyCamera. It's easy to find online. I'll link to it in the description. But this class here is a command shell that's set up via TCP socket so that the server can reboot the Raspberry Pi, for example, and when it formulates its motion commands, it sends it to this command socket, which just forwards it through USB serial to the Arduino, because the Arduino does all the actual handling of the drive system. And here's how that's set up, and that command socket is also run as a separate thread on the Pi itself. The other socket connection here is the PyCamera module, which this is just default code that you'll find on the PyCamera website. It streams the JPEG data from the camera out that TCP socket. The server, this programmer here, will receive that image and process all the intensive OpenCV functions and then send back motion commands, which that's disabled right now. I'm doing it manually because I still haven't tweaked out the actual settings for this camera. But as you notice, the processes on the laptop have increased because it's processing all the OpenCV code, but on the Raspberry Pi on the right-hand side, it's decreased because it's made the connection and it's just sending stream information. So that's the difference between the architecture of a remote streaming versus a local processing robot. I'm operating this robot on a very small battery pack, and it lasts quite a long time because it's not using much energy, just streaming JPEG information and waiting for serial commands, which are very, very basic. The opposite of that is processing locally on the robot itself, which is what the last robot did, and that's that robot's sitting right there actually. And it's got a much larger battery, but runs a lot shorter because all the energy is being used to process the OpenCV. That's really the only major difference between the two architectures. But if you're experimenting with code like I am and you're trying to get a lot of runtime out of the setup without spending a lot in terms of batteries and processing hardware, this is kind of like the way to go. So other than that, hopefully it'll be controlling itself on its own very, very soon once I trust it. So thanks for watching.